Back here on the Army Sports Network pregame show presented by Bud Light. Justin Rock joined by the head coach of Army West Point. That is Dave Magarity. Coach, coming into this weekend, taking on a young but very talented Holy Cross team that has a pretty familiar name at the helm in her first season as the head coach. That is your daughter, Maureen Magarity. This believed to be the first ever father-daughter matchup in the history of Division I college basketball. What's it been like, the build-up coming up to this weekend, and what's it going to be like this weekend sharing the floor with your daughter?
Well, yeah, it has been. It's nice. I mean, it's garnered a lot of attention, and when the Associated Press article came out, I think that got everybody thinking about it because it's been all over the place. ESPN's did a feature, Michelle Vopel, and we're going to be on ESPN Radio with Fred Coleman tonight. Freddie actually used to do my games at Marist when I was a men's coach. So, it's been nice. We've been able to do it together with Maureen and myself. So, it's going to be emotional, and it's really unique and special, I guess. But I think for me and hopefully for her, I mean, the fact that we had scrimmaged all those times, from the moment she got to UNH back in 2010, 11, we have always scrimmaged. And I think back to those scrimmages and, once the scrimmage started, I didn't really look down down the bench and think about her being my daughter. It was like, hey, how are we going to, beat this team? How are we going to adjust and just going out and getting something out of a scrimmage? And it's sort of, I sort of regret maybe never playing in a regular season game, because especially when they were as good as they were for that, they had that stretch with that great team that won the America East regular season, went to the NIT, and we had Minato and that crew. They had a nice team, and it's going to be interesting though.
You mentioned those scrimmages you used to have against her teams at the University of New Hampshire. And I remember asking you early in my tenure at West Point if you'd ever schedule a regular season game against her while she was there. And you were sort of quick to sort of push that aside because of the potential emotional reaction of having the matchup of father and daughter. With that being the case, what was it like speaking with her, going through the process this offseason as she was being interviewed and ultimately recruited to being the head coach at Holy Cross?
Well, we never really, I didn't think much about that. I just looked at Holy Cross as being a great opportunity. It's a great basketball school. To me, it was a great fit for her. I mean, to her familiarity with it, and the fact that, they've really put a lot into the basketball programs there recently with some unbelievably, great renovations, practice facility. So, I mean, I think for her, given 10 years to UNH, she did a terrific job there. She was well loved there. I mean, the AD, it was like a second father to her. It was a tough move. It was a hard decision for her because of the comfort level and the fact that, she probably could have stayed there for the rest of her career. But if you're going to stay in the business, my whole thing was that this is something you have to look at. And she had been offered other positions during her career, way back after her second or third year at UNH Siena, showed a lot of interest in her. And I just, she interviewed, I think, at UMass, other places. But she always felt that UNH was a good fit. But it's 10 years is 10 years, and I think Holy Cross really offered her the opportunity to move into a really good league as well.
Now, one of the great things about your relationship with your daughter is you actually had the pleasure of having her on your staff for a number of years and had a lot of success at West Point with her there. What are some of the favorite memories you have of having her on your staff at West Point?
Well, she obviously came in at a time, it was a very emotional time, when Maggie Dixon passed away. And, I was a little reluctant to take over at that point. And one of the parameters or conditions I felt for me was to be able to bring her on staff. And ironically, when I had made a decision to take a job in the NBA back in 2006, after that season, Maggie approached me and just said, "Hey, how you feel about me offering Maureen your job?" So I was like, "Hey, that's great. And, it's a win-win." But little did anybody know what was going to happen. So when it came time for me to decide, I wanted to make sure that was still an option. And the AD at the time, Kevin Anderson, said, he had no problem with it since Maggie had offered her the job and the administration was fine with it. So that was important. So we, I think it was a big transition for me to go from assistant to head coach in the women's game. I had done it on the men's side, but never on the women's side. So I needed her. I needed somebody that I could trust, needed somebody that I knew had my back, so to speak. And, because I had to put together a new staff as well.
One final question for you, Coach. Sentimental stuff aside, Holy Cross is a team, as you mentioned, pretty young, but still does have some really good returning talent. How do you guys feel like you match up against them today, especially since they have a slightly quicker turnaround than you guys did since they played Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah, they did. And unfortunately for them, they not only had to open with probably the most talented and deep team in the league. And I got to be careful saying that because, Bucknell's out there listening too. They're saying, "What do you mean BU's the best team?" I just looked at their talent level, their experience, and even, they have a tremendous transfer from Villanova to add to everybody, one of the best, if not the best point guard in the league, and Katie Nelson. So the tough opener for her, not having the opportunity to play any games. And they have to play them 6 times, which is, that's daunting. 4 times for us is tough. But, I think LaBarbera is obviously one of the premier guards in the league. They're going to come in here. They haven't won here and I don't know how long, to be honest with you. I mean, we've beaten them here the last couple of years when, quite frankly, they were a better team. They were better than us. They had more talent, more experience. Last year was probably our best league win. When you look at everything, considering they ended up finishing, I believe, 3rd in the conference and, won 19 games. So they're a different team. I mean, they really are. And LaBarbera is really has to be the leader, but they've got some really talented young kids. And the kid Azema is a very tough kid. She's a junior, and even though she never started, she played big minutes for them. So we're going to have our hands full, Justin. I think, the freshman guard McCormick, Lauren Lithgow was named Rookie of the Week, as you know, but I think the kid McCormick was right there. She probably was a runner-up for that honor. She had 2 good games against BU.
Head coach of the Black Knights, Dave Magarity, thank you as always for taking the time to join us. Enjoy this weekend. Best of luck this weekend. We'll talk to you after the game.
Thank you.
Coming up next in the pregame show, we'll have starting lineups and tip-off. You're listening on the Army Sports Network pregame show presented by Bud Light.